episode number 31 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. My guest today is Samantha Gladish. Samantha is a registered holistic nutritionist, weight loss coach, and hormone fixer-upper. She is the founder of holisticwellness.ca, a website dedicated to helping women lose weight and balance their hormones with delicious food. Samantha coaches and supports women from around the world on natural beauty care, holistic health, and nutrition. Her philosophy is that through changing the way we eat, think, move, and care for our bodies, we can heal ourselves and live a life of more power and possibility. So welcome to the podcast, Samantha.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
So you have definitely a very interesting story, and I'd love for you to share your own healing journey and what brought you to doing the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's so many different areas that I can share when it comes to my own healing journey. But when I think back, I was always, as just a young girl, I was always innately interested in food and nutrition. And I was really lucky to grow up in a household where my mother made everything from scratch. And I got to watch her, cook everything from scratch. And she would cringe at prepackaged food. And so even though growing up, I ate really well as a teenager, those habits die pretty hard, right? You're eating all kinds of sugar. Yep. All kinds of sugar, high carbohydrate diet. And then I'd get my period and it would just be brutal. And I would be keeled over in pain, and I had a lot of headaches and a lot of digestive issues. And that's what felt like the norm for me, as I'm sure many women, right? It's just, They get their period and it comes with all this discomfort. And so as I got older and started diving deeper into food and nutrition, and then I realized, I could actually do this as a career. I went to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and during that I think it was the first week or two, I will never forget learning about PMS and the birth control pill. And I had been on the birth control pill. I went on it at about maybe 17 years old. And I went on it for a good 7 or 8 years. And the reason I went on it was for a few things. Number one, my cycle sucked. I had all this pain. And then other girls at school were on it too. And it just seemed so easy breezy for them in their cycles. So I just remember going to my doctor's office and just saying hey, I'm in pain and my period sucks and I have all this cramping and all this discomfort. Can I go on the pill? And it was just so easy. It was handed a pack of pills and I started on it that day. And then I remember being in nutrition school, and that first or second week being in school and learning all about the pill and the detriment of it, and really learning how you can use food and supplementation and, lifestyle strategies to really support your hormones and your cycle. And so I went off the pill that week, or probably that day from that specific class, and then really started to implement a lot of nutrition strategies to support my cycle.
Yeah, I've also been on the pill, and it was so easy to obtain for anybody.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on hormonal contraceptives for people that don't know what the negatives are?
Yeah. So, there's definitely quite a few negatives. And, at the time when I went on the pill, of course, being in your teens, I was never taught about my cycle or my hormones and how to really honor that and the importance of it. And so as women, it's so important to have a healthy, regular cycle. And when I say regular, that's going to look a little bit different for everybody. And so, quote unquote, regular 28-day cycle, that's what most of us know. But, your cycle might be 26 days, it might be 35 days. As long as there's regularity to it, that's what's important. And so I with hormonal contraceptives, what's really happening is it's shutting down ovulation, and your ovulation is the most important part of your cycle, whether you want to conceive or not. So when we speak about fertility, fertility isn't just about having babies. Fertility means having healthy, happy hormones, balanced hormones, having a regular cycle. And your ovulation is what actually helps you produce your estrogen and your progesterone. And so basically, when you go on hormonal contraceptives, it completely shuts down ovulation. And basically, your ovaries kind of go on this hiatus, and they no longer need to really support your hormone production. And so because you're taking in synthetic hormones. So in a way, your ovaries do become a little bit lazy.
Right.
Yeah. And so
I heard that before. My teacher always used to say that. The one teacher, she said, the ovaries get lazy.
yes, exactly.
A good way to put it.
That's right. And so they end up becoming a little bit lazy because you're taking in synthetic hormones. And so, and not only that, your birth control pills, even if it's something like the Mirena IUD, these hormonal contraceptives, they can deplete a lot of nutrients in the body. And so they really deplete your body's ability to make B vitamins, because you do make some B vitamins in your gut, but they impact your magnesium, your vitamin C, your B vitamins, your zinc, all things that are really important and needed for optimal hormonal health. And so you've got the nutrient depletion part, you've got the ovulation part that's being shut down. And then from a gut perspective, the hormonal contraceptives are also really causing a lot of imbalance with gut health and just your microbiome overall. I mean, any kind of medication that you take, especially something you take daily, is going to impact sort of that delicate balance between your good and your bad bacteria. And so it's really essential to support that, because your gut health is really like your second brain, and it's going to help you absorb nutrients from your food, but also different microbes in your gut are also going to help produce different vitamins and minerals and whatnot. So there's a lot of issues that come with the hormonal birth control, and pretty much all forms of hormonal contraceptives will increase your risk for breast cancer. So, something that is not talked about. And when we go into our doctor's office and we ask for the pill, we're not told about these side effects. We're not told about the, studies and the research that's showing the correlation between cancer. So, there's a lot of things that we're not told. And so it's so important that as women, we really just need to educate ourselves about these choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And how did you heal yourself? So how did changing your, getting off the pill and then changing your lifestyle and your diet help you regulate your menstruation and everything?
Yes. And so it's important to note that, everybody, when it comes to the birth control pill, at least in my case, so when I went on the pill, I had already had a good 3 years, maybe give or take 2 to 3 years of already having a regular cycle, which is really key. So for those women who are listening, it's important to note that if you've already had a regular cycle for a few years, and then you went on the pill for whatever X amount of years, and then once you come off, what happened before you went on the pill can really be an indication for what to expect post pill. So I hope that makes sense, because there's a lot of girls who will go on the pill when they're 11, 12 years old, even before they've had any type of cycle.
That's scary.
It's very scary, because now you're not giving your body the ability for real maturation and for your ovaries to kickstart. So you kind of shut down that process at a very, very early age. So when you come off, so if you go on the pill at 11, 12 years old, you've never had a cycle, and then, you're on the pill for 20 years, and then you get off and you're expecting to have now a regular cycle and to get pregnant, that's where it could pose more issues.
Right.
Even from a symptomatic standpoint, how your cycle and your symptoms were before the pill can also indicate what it might be post pill. Now, this isn't always the case, but this is typically with the women that I work with in my practice who do want to conceive and just support their hormones overall and want to ditch the pill. This is typically what I've seen, is that women who, had a pretty, for the most part, easy breezy cycle, but they just went on the pill because they wanted protection, protection from sex, getting pregnant and all of that. Then after they've gotten off, for the most part, they've gotten their period back, no problem, with very little symptoms. But again, it can be different for everybody. So for me, I was lucky enough, like I said, I had a few years of already having a regular cycle. So when I came off the pill, within 30 days, I got my period back, no problem. And I really do owe that to the fact that, number one, I had, just started at nutrition school, and I was really diving into my own personal wellness and health. And so I was cleaning up my diet quite a bit, and I was getting rid of the sugar and eating more whole foods, kind of dabbling a little bit here and there with organics. I mean, I was in my early 20s. And so, I couldn't afford as much organic as I can now. Right. But, dabbling with a little organic and, just making sure that I was getting an adequate protein at every meal and really increasing my veggie intake. So that was a big thing for me. And that's probably also when I started around making smoothies more regularly, because it was just really easy. And versus back in the day, my smoothies were like orange juice and bananas and strawberries. Right. And it was just like milk. Yeah, it was all sugar. And so I really learned how to build what I now call a PFF smoothie, protein, fat, and fiber. So really making sure that I was, really making sure I had adequate protein in there with a good quality protein powder. I had some fiber in there from whether it's spinach or kale or something like that, flax seeds, and then also including a little bit of berries, really low glycemic berries, and getting in those antioxidants. And then I was also swapping out my dairy and using non-dairy milk options. So I had really started to clean up my diet quite a bit. And I was also supplementing with things like vitamin C, with zinc, with B vitamins. And, your B vitamins are so important. They're involved in every neurological process in your body. Your vitamin C is so incredible. Not only is it a great antioxidant, but it also does help with progesterone production. And your zinc is great because it really does help to metabolize estrogen, and it supports hormones overall. So I had already started with this supplementation and then cleaning up my diet. So when I did go off the pill, within a good 30 days, I got my cycle back, no problem. And it continued regularly from then on.
That's great. And how about the cramps? Did it help with that as well?
Yeah. I mean, they were a lot less. And I would say, like, even to this day, for the most part, my cycle is pretty easy breezy, but the times where it's cramping, where I have cramps and I have more symptoms showing up, that is typically an indication of what's been going on in my life from the past, like maybe 2 to 3 months back. Right. So I kind of look back and I'm like, okay, I had more stress going on, or I ate a little bit more sugar, or I wasn't moving my body as much, and, kind of slacking in a few areas. And then that's when I find the cramps and more of the symptoms will show up. So that's something that I always suggest for women to do, is if you find that for the most part, your cycles are easy breezy, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you feel like you just got hit by a truck for, with one of your cycles, spend some time and look back, maybe you want to look back 4 to 6 to 8 weeks and like what's been going on in your life. Was there more stress that showed up? Because that can really affect your symptoms and cramping especially.
Yeah, definitely. And I also recommend, it's so important to just put more awareness into what's happening in our life and how that affects our cycle. The more we become aware of it, it's almost like, I can't believe I never noticed this.
Yes.
But it's just so important to bring awareness. So I love that. I really agree. And I know that you have a fertility diet that you recommend. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, the fertility diet is really just whole foods at the end of the day. And it's kind of the diet that I followed way back when I was supporting my hormones and wanting to get off the pill. And that's just focusing on more whole foods and that PFF approach. So I do feel that, I mean, nowadays there's a lot of keto talk going on. So I feel like
Yeah.
maybe there's not so much fear of fat per se, but there's definitely still some women that are scared to increase their fat intake. And I'm not saying that you should go keto. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that don't be afraid of healthy fats. Your hormones need fat to function. And so it's
Right.
really important to get those healthy fats in. So that was definitely something that I was more conscious of back in the day when I got off the pill, and just overall, even till this day. So fats are really essential. And it's not just about, you know, plant-based fats, but also those saturated fats and those animal fats are really, really important too. Those saturated fats are what actually helps you absorb and your fat soluble vitamins like your A, D,
Right.
E, and K. So if you are eating animal sources, you do want to make sure that it's of high quality. I do recommend to my clients to find that extra $20 to $30 a week, put it towards better quality animal products, better quality meat or dairy if you do consume dairy, organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised meats. You know, this is really ideal. And plus, you're going to get a much higher content of omega-3s, which are so incredible because they're very anti-inflammatory. So that's really key. So my diet personally has varied over the years, right? And I always think it's important to say to people that where I am currently with my diet has literally been a 20 plus year journey. And so don't look at what I'm currently doing and feel like overwhelmed by it or like, oh my God, she's so perfect at it. Like, no, it's been a journey, right? And so, and it's been really about tuning in and listening to my body. And so the fertility diet is that it's about tuning in and listening to your body and getting in more fruits and vegetables, which is key because you really want those antioxidants, which are so important for helping with any oxidative stress and supporting cellular health. And those fats, like I said, are going to be so important for hormonal function, but also for your brain. Your brain is 70% fat. So think about how you're fueling it. You know, are you fueling your brain with fried foods, right? Poor quality oxidative fats, or are you supporting your brain with avocados and avocado oil and olive oil and this really good blend of saturated, monounsaturated fats, which are really important for really whole body health. They support your heart, they support your hormones, they support your brain. So really, really key. They support inflammation. They support skin health, which is so wonderful, beautifying your skin from the inside out. And then your proteins, right? Making sure you're getting in adequate protein, especially if you're active. You do want to make sure that you are getting protein at every meal because it's the fats and the proteins and the fiber, this whole combination that's so key because that's what really satiates you and that's what really helps support and balances your insulin levels and your blood sugar levels. So this is really, really key. If you find that you're eating a meal and an hour later you are starving, then take a look at your protein, fat, and fiber. You know, where do you maybe need to increase a little bit of those macros to really support your blood sugar levels?
Right. And you make a good point because it is all about quality rather than quantity. We just eat sometimes empty calories and then we're hungry again and it doesn't really take us far. So it really
Absolutely.
does make a huge difference. And I agree with you. And it's amazing. I feel like like the world's going through a paradigm shift on fat because for so long it's been villainized. And now we're realizing the benefits are huge.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to talk about what you thought some of the biggest troublemakers are as far as diet is concerned.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few of them. So gluten, dairy, sugar, those are really the top three. Now, there are some people that can definitely tolerate dairy. And I think that, and if that's the case, that's fine. Then you can definitely go ahead and include that. You know, I do work with a lot of weight loss in my practice. And
Mhm.
so for me, especially putting somebody on a weight loss program, I really do want to meet people where they're at. So if dairy is that crutch and they need a little bit of cheese in their diet, then I'm going to leave it in there because it's what they do overall that matters, right?
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. And so I don't want to be super restrictive with people. And really want to meet them in the middle. But at the same time, I also want them to get results and I want them to feel amazing. So that's where certain things might need to come out. But it's really all bio individual. And so the biggest culprits that I really do see causing the biggest issues is the gluten, dairy, and the sugar. So again, if you can tolerate dairy, go ahead and include it. If you can get your hands on raw dairy, then even better. But
Yeah.
there's so many non-dairy milk options nowadays, and cashew cheeses and almond cheese. Like there's so many amazing
And they're
options.
delicious. Yeah,
They are
absolutely.
delicious. So I really encourage people to just experiment. And
Hmm.
especially with cow's dairy, I do find it can be a lot more inflammatory. And so maybe even trying like a sheep's milk or goat's milk, cheese, or even yogurt, maybe if you can tolerate that, and just kind of play around with that. And I do find that people just specifically with the cow's dairy have more issues, more digestive issues. And this is on a random note, but especially with acne, I find that those who are experiencing a lot of issues with skin and acne, eczema, or psoriasis, then the dairy definitely has to go because it's super inflammatory. And then gluten, gluten causes a lot of digestive chaos and is really causing a ton of inflammation in the gut. So what's worse than spending your money on organic food, but then not actually being able to absorb and digest all those nutrients, right? So you
Absolutely.
really want to make sure that you're conscious of gluten and cutting that out. And if you do find that you're having issues with weight, you're having issues with brain fog, especially if you're having any type of thyroid issues, cut the gluten and maybe even consider cutting the grains out and see how you feel. I mean, you're never going to know unless you just try. And so there's no harm in, cutting something out for 21 days, 30 days, and then slowly reintroducing it and just really paying attention to the symptoms that might show up. And then lastly is the sugar, right? And sugar comes in many forms. It's not just this um, cakes and cookies and sweets and treats and all this kind of stuff, which we tend to think about. But sugar is in grains. Sugar is in obviously white flour products and whole wheat, and it's in so many different products. And so it's really the glucose, right? When we eat high carbohydrate foods, that's going to essentially turn into glucose, into sugar, into your bloodstream. And so that's just what we really want to be conscious of. And especially I find so many of us are over consuming grains.
Hmm.
And I think that, if you look at your plate and you just look at what are all the foods that you're having on your plate, like what is typically filling your plate up the most, I often find that many of the women I work with, grains is taking up a lot of room on the plate. So
It's true, but it's interesting because for so long we've been conditioned because that was what the food pyramid looked like.
yes, yes, absolutely. And I mean, I get it. I was in that phase too, and I was eating lots of quinoa and I was eating lots of brown rice and buckwheat, like all kinds of different grains. And it's not to say that there's something that you should completely cut them out and never eat them again, but I do think it's worthwhile cutting it out temporarily to really see how you feel.
Yeah,
And
I'm with you 100%. I do agree. I just think that we're starting to learn that and the food pyramid's starting to change a little bit, or at least what's understood now by nutritionists modern day,
yes,
that it's a lot different than what we used to think. And we really went heavy on the grains and now we're going more heavy on the vegetables, which I think is amazing.
yes, absolutely. It's like, it's about time.
Yeah, absolutely. For
Absolutely.
sure. So, what's interesting is I was actually having this conversation with my husband because I'm giving him some supplements and I'm telling him the reason now supplements are so important, I think more than ever, is even if you do eat healthy, nowadays we overproduce food so much that the nutrients from the soil get depleted.
Absolutely.
And even the good foods don't quite have the same nutrients that they used to. It's not as rich with nutrients. So we do unfortunately need to supplement. So on the topic of supplements, I know you work a lot with supplements as well. And I want to know, if you can share what nutrients women who are trying to conceive should consider supplementing with.
Absolutely. So, you made a great point there with nutrient depletion in our soil and just the quality of the food overall. And so I think it's so essential to supplement, especially when we have an underlying health condition going on and we really want to swing the pendulum from, A to B. Supplementation is really going to help you get there. And so specifically with fertility, omega-3 fish oils are so important. So highly recommend those. They are incredibly anti-inflammatory. They're great for your brain. They're great for your heart. They're pretty much great from head to toe. In fact, taking omega-3 fish oils can help lower your chances of getting heart attack by 50%. And there is no pharmaceutical.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's
God.
large. And there's no pharmaceutical on the market that can actually do that for you. So, and especially with, building a baby's brain, they need that DHA. So your omega-3 fish oils consist of your EPA and your DHA, and that DHA really does build the baby's brain. So that's really, really essential. So omega-3s for sure. And specifically when I say omega-3s, the most potency you're going to get is by taking from fish oil. For those who might be supplementing with something like flax, you will get some omega-3s, or like hemp or chia or something like that, more plant-based. Mm-hmm. You won't get as much from an actual fish source. I believe that Echium is a plant-based source. I can't remember if it's like a seaweed or some type of sea vegetable that it does provide you more omega-3 than something like flax would. So that might be something to consider if you're more following a plant-based diet. But otherwise, definitely your fish oil all the way. Probiotics, so essential because they really help to support the gut and, replenish all that good bacteria in your gut, especially if you're, stressed or eating sugar or drinking alcohol, which obviously should go. It's got to get the boot if you're considering, conceiving. And your probiotics are so essential. Your immune system lives in your gut. And so especially with fertility, your immune system is not just building yours, but it's building babies too, right? So really getting in those probiotics as well as eating your probiotics, which is great too. So not just supplementing, but sauerkraut and kimchi, if you're drinking like a low sugar kombucha, or you're having some like coconut kefir. I know some people say kefir, however you say it. Those would be really great options too. And also getting in some prebiotic foods. So prebiotics are basically foods for the probiotics, right? So it helps those probiotics thrive even more. So your asparagus is really great, and artichoke and garlic and onions, jicama. These are all really, really great prebiotic foods. So definitely include those. And then a really good quality prenatal is obviously recommended. And it's just about finding really good brands. Like, unfortunately, a lot of the like drugstore brands, if you read the labels, they contain a lot of colorings, like artificial colorings and weird preservatives, which is just not okay in my book.
My mind.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like crazy.
So wild. Like they literally color the capsule. So unnecessary. So just be really conscious of that. And, going to like your local health food store and just really inquiring and asking questions and asking questions about the excipients. So not just the actual vitamins and minerals, but like the excipients and how they're coating the capsule and things like that. Cause that's where you don't want to get artificial colorings and stuff. So yeah, be conscious of that. And then lastly, vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important. It actually helps with blood sugar and insulin, and it's so incredible for the immune system. So really getting your vitamin D in, and maybe testing your vitamin D levels to see where you're at, and then you know how much you actually need to supplement and dose with.
Right. That's great information. And it's so true about the prenatals. Another thing I actually heard is, we always talk about MTHFR and folate rather than folic acid. And there was some information that I've heard where women who have folic acid, the child may tend to have food allergies after they're born. So that's pretty crazy.
Right. That's right. Yes, you're absolutely right. And even children who are C-section or aren't
Mm-hmm.
breastfed. I was unfortunately a C-section baby, so I did not pass through the birth canal. And so I didn't pick up all of that really good bacteria to basically build
Right.
my
That's a good
gut
point.
and build my immune
Yeah.
system. So
Right.
my gut health, like right from birth, it took a hit, and my immune system,
Mm-hmm.
like right from birth. And so here I am, 36 years later, and I have autoimmune Hashimoto's. So it's so important now looking back, like, okay, how did this autoimmunity develop? Right. And there's been so many instances over the years where my gut took such a hit from catching a parasite or my diet and different toxins and C-section baby. Like all of these things have led to really impacting gut health and then suppressing immunity, leading to leaky gut, which in my case has now shown up as autoimmune Hashimoto. So really, really good point that you made there. And just being conscious of, what can you do to support your baby's gut and immune health, because that's going to be an indicator for their health years down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long do people need usually when they come and see you? They have, like, say, a really bad diet and they have their hormones are all over the map. And once they start changing and implementing the supplements and the food, how long do you usually see as a minimum that they need to implement this new lifestyle in order to really truly see changes in their hormone levels, like for the better?
Yeah. So, I mean, this can definitely be very bio individual because it can really be based on somebody's symptoms, right? But for the most part, I within the first 2 weeks of working with me, I mean, people are going to see dramatic results.
Hmm.
1000%. Like within those first 2 weeks, when you're on an anti-inflammatory diet and we've already started some supplementation, you are going to feel a difference within those first 2 weeks. But when it comes to fertility overall and pregnancy and all of that, what you do today is what matters. So I don't care if you are 17 years old and you are just having the slightest, the inkling inside that, yes, you do want to be a mother down the road. What you do today absolutely matters. So the sooner that you can start eating a whole foods diet and get on appropriate supplementation and really support your health overall, you are going to have such a better chance of conceiving down the road. So, for the 17-year-old that's like conscious about not getting pregnant right now, I totally understand that. But there are other methods than using something like the birth control pill. And there are so many ways that you can support your body and your hormones now, which will really help support your body and your hormones and your future chances of fertility down the road. So, when it comes to fertility, it's what you do right now that counts. There's so many women that come to me and they're still on the pill and they're like, I want to get pregnant in the next 6 months. And it's like, we got to stop looking at it like this. We have
I
to,
agree. Oh my God. Yeah.
right? We have to stop with this like urgency. And we also have to really start honoring everything that we've done to our bodies up until this point and recognize that it's going to be a process. And there's probably detoxification that has to take place, as well as supplementation, as well as the nutrition. Like there's probably so many things, doing
Yeah.
hormone testings maybe, and looking at hormone levels and seeing what we need to optimize. So it can be so bio individual, but at the end of the day, just going back to, that 2 week comment, yes, in 2 weeks, you can definitely notice a dramatic difference, but committing to something for at least 3 to 4 months is where you're going to
Yeah.
have the most transformation.
Absolutely. And it's funny because as you were saying that, like the thought came that we expect our bodies to respond as quickly as modern day technology.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
we're so used to the quick fix. Everything's quick. We're just used to getting what we want immediately. Instant gratification. You want to buy something, buy it on Amazon, it'll come in a day. And
Totally.
and but let me tell you, your body doesn't operate that way. And it doesn't happen like that. And I think that because we're so used to that, we get frustrated and then it creates more stress. And it's a whole host of, it's like a whole chain
Absolutely.
reaction. And it's like, yeah. And, but the bottom line is the body is natural and it works on a rhythm and it takes time to truly feel the changes. And I think that I'm so with you on, if we can educate our kids at a young age to really think about what they're putting in their bodies so that they're preparing themselves and not just worry about preparing themselves the day they want to get pregnant.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. This is great. Definitely very good information. So is there a tip that you'd like to share?
Oh, there's so many I can share.
I'm sure.
I think ultimately, it comes down to you trusting your intuition. And I think so many women are consumed and bombarded and perhaps maybe overwhelmed with social media and what others are doing. And we're losing sight of basically trusting our own intuition and trusting our gut and what works right for us. And with so many diet trends and whatnot that come out, day after day and year after year, I think it causes us to lose touch with ourselves. And so my tip is to really trust your intuition and to find your way back to that intuition, because it's your intuition that's going to know what's right for you. And just because somebody else is doing whatever it might be and it works for them, it doesn't mean that that's what's right for you. So really, trusting your intuition and finding the things that work for you, finding the things that bring you the most joy and implementing those, and just honoring and trusting your body.
I love those words. That's such great wisdom. And it's true. Every single person knows their own body more than anybody else or any other doctor or whoever with however many letters besides their name.
Yes.
I mean, it's really important to trust that.
Absolutely. Yes. And you just made me think of something, and especially with doctors and so many women who go to their doctor with a host of symptoms and they're told that it's all in their head or it's because they're aging, don't just take that as the answer and really dive in. And again, your body best. So go and do that detective work and find the solutions and find the practitioners who are really going to help you on your healing journey.
Yeah, great words. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
So where can people find you?
So I'm hanging out on Instagram. I love it over there and sharing all kinds of recipes and fun info. You can find me at Holistic Wellness Foodie. You can also head on over to our website, holisticwellness.ca. And then I also host a weekly podcast called Healthy Hormones for Women.
Awesome. Well, this was such a pleasure. I loved having you on. I think that it's definitely really informative information to whoever's listening and trying to balance their hormones, get their bodies prepared for pregnancy. It's just great information. I only wish, just like you wish, that people would do this way ahead of time. But who knows? Maybe things will start to change with that.
Yes, I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was great.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to leave a review. Reviews are everything to podcasters, and I will be giving shout outs to the usernames of reviews on future episodes. You can find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com. And please be on the lookout for my online course and program, which will be available online soon. This course has emerged from everything that I've been using for the fertility program I now offer at my office. I wanted to consolidate all of my suggestions and coaching and put it into a form that anyone can purchase and use. It was important for me to encompass key fertility health factors as well as guide you in implementing changes in your routine that are shown to boost fertility while being realistic and user-friendly. I will be offering this course with and without coaching. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com, where you can find the subscription form. I am also offering a discounted pre-registration price for a limited time. If you're interested in that, you can contact me on my contact page. I thank you so much for listening in and hope you have a beautiful day.